on. You can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here is a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out. Yeah! 40. It is. Eric Crouch. 15, 10.
Okay, welcome to Cornhusker Corner, where today there truly is no place like this podcast because I am by myself today. I went to the game yesterday, so my voice is nearly gone. So I'm not going to make you have to listen to me for very long. I'm going to try to keep this tight, but Blake had a conference this week, and he couldn't talk about what just happened, even though it was awesome. And I don't blame him. It just is what it is. It's very, very poor timing. We've been doing this podcast for 3 years, and Nebraska has never really been good since we've been doing this podcast. Been fans forever, but they haven't been good the whole time we've done this podcast, and now finally they're good. And unfortunately, a work conference has got in the way of our podcast this week. But do not let your hearts be troubled. Blake gave me his commentary on the game, so what I'm going to do today, instead of our normal positives, negatives, one final thought on things, I'm going to keep it not as structured, and I'm just going to kind of go down Blake's commentary point by point, add my own stuff to it, and yeah, comment on what he's got, because it's fun, man. We want to talk about this. Earlier today, I was trying to recount in my brain how many Husker games I've been to, and I think it was like 14 throughout my life is what I figured out. I've been to 14 Husker games. So before this game, the best Husker game I've been to in person was 2014 Miami. That was an incredible game. I went with my dad. It was awesome. It was a great time, great experience. But yeah, this game matched, and I'd say exceeded that game. Now, that game was more of a complete entertaining game from beginning to end. So the third quarter of the Miami game, it was the third or fourth quarter. We were already up by 2, maybe even 3 scores in Miami in 2014. And one thing that's burned in my mind about that game is we had a goal line stand late in the game. And the game was really already over by this point. It didn't really matter if they scored, but the black shirts were still out there and the crowd was still in the game. And it was just a really cool moment. Not a whole lot of places a team's up by 3 and the crowd is cheering like it's the beginning of the game for a goal line stand. And that always sticks with me. And this game definitely had shades of that. I mean, the crowd tried to stay engaged the whole time. I was there. I can assure you of that. We were getting up, we were screaming, but there's only so much you can do when the refs intervene in the second half and stuff, but we'll talk about that. So the game starts, and it's just one thing after another. It's just euphoria. Everything that's happening is like, oh my gosh, it's happening. And Blake will, when we talk about this, when he comes back onto the show, Blake will say this. I mean, and on our last show, there's, it's right at the end, but I said, look, I have a feeling that Nebraska's gonna dominate Colorado. I have a feeling that they're gonna kill Colorado. And Greg's been on the show multiple times, and he's a fraternity brother of mine. So no love lost. Always have love for Greg. And you know what? Greg was actually very, very he showed a lot of humility this morning. He texted me basically. Let me actually just read exactly what Greg said. Sorry, Greg, but it's not really anything personal, but he said, quite embarrassing in the sense that it played out almost exactly like you said it would. And all I really said to him there was, yeah, it was domination. Place was rocking. Second half kind of took the air out of the place with the penalties on every single play, but respect for just admitting it. No excuses, brother. So yeah, Greg's good dude. If Nebraska and Colorado's paths ever cross again, and it makes sense to bring him back on, we definitely will. Hell, I mean, he's fun to talk to. If it makes sense, we'll bring it back on at some point. But anyway, Greg was humble. I talked a lot of crap to Greg in, just fun ribbing, nothing that was serious. But I talked a lot of crap to Greg leading up to the game all week. And it was just very vindicating for me to be there in the stadium. It's almost like I had to rewatch the game today multiple times because it was such an emotional experience. It really was. I mean, it's funny to say, but you all who are watching this understand. I mean, Husker football is very near and dear to all of us. And it's been hard. It's been very, very hard to go through the just malaise of mediocrity that has plagued our program over the last, people like to say 20 years. I think that's a little bit hyperbolic. We've had some good years here and there, especially the Bo years, of course, and then some of the Callahan years, and then 2016 under Riley, even though we knew and everybody knew we were paper tiger that year. No, but this one felt different. Okay, this one felt different. They came out and they rose to the moment. It was a game that, I mean, I was in Lincoln all day and we would talk to people and it would be like, we're coming in from this part of town. We're coming in from that part of town. We've planned all year to come here to do this. So it was one of those games that was a prime, for lack of a better term, was a prime time game, and a prime time spotlight under the lights where everybody was looking forward to it on NBC. Everybody leading up to it, all the college football shows had a segment talking about Colorado, Nebraska. And we lived up. We lived up to the hype. We absolutely delivered. I mean, the second half went how it went, but man, I don't think I can remember a more dominant first half, especially given the stage. Like, immediately I think about 2005 Colorado for some reason, a game that was in Colorado where Corey Ross ran all over them. And we were 17.5-point dogs going into that game. And it was like 24-3 at halftime or something like that. It was absolute beatdown. It reminded me of that, but that was not nearly as big of a stage as this was. The beginning of the year, we haven't started 1-0 and since 2019. We haven't started 2-0 since I believe 2016. And it's just, I mean, it's getting over a hump. There's a lot more to accomplish throughout the year, but they got over a hump with this psychologically, regardless of how good Colorado is. To me, that doesn't even really matter. This was about us versus us and proving to ourselves that we can do this, that we can rise up on a stage like this and deliver for our fans. Because, it's the 398th consecutive sellout. Fans, they show up and they show out for every game. And it's just heartbreaking every year. I mean, I experienced the heartbreak along with you because I'm a fan as well, but it's heartbreaking every year. Even if I was trying to look at it from a third person perspective, see how much love and dedication there is from Husker Nation, and then to see the product that's been put out on the field year after year. I mean, it's different than an SEC school. People like, oh, it's SEC. You don't know, SEC is different. I'm like, okay, sure. There's aspects of the SEC that Nebraska it's different than, but Nebraska is the team of the area. And not only that, the economy thrives when Nebraska football is doing better. The economy does better. Like the economy, think about that. The economy of the entire area, really, I don't want to say it rests on it. It doesn't rest on it. Nebraska will be just fine with or without football, but it certainly helps a lot. And there's so many Nebraska fans concentrated in this one state that and they all love the team so much that the losing really psychologically affects the community. It really does, in a very tangible way that you can feel when you live here. I mean, we lived here from, I believe, I mean, I don't want to say the years wrong because I was born in 97 in the middle of the time we were living here, so I don't know exactly know. I think it was like 1996 to 2001 we lived in Nebraska or something like that. So we lived here for 5 years. I was born in Omaha. And one thing I just remember about, and then we lived in Kansas City after. So that's mostly where I formed my memories from about Nebraska football, because we still had season tickets when we lived in Kansas City. But one thing I remember is just like, man, when Husker football was on, Omaha even shut down. The state shut down. The place was there to watch Husker football. And so, yeah, it's just it's just so awesome. It's euphoric to watch. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into Blake's commentary because I'm just kind of rambling here. And here we go. So he sent me this Colorado game thoughts. It was so nice to not flop on a big stage for the first time in a decade. The team is tough and physical. The final score was not indicative of how much we dominated. The refs were horrid and stalled out 3 separate drives where we could have scored in the second half. Fact check, true. Rule has the team believing, and you can see it. Prime has his team doubting, and you can see it. Yeah, I mean, from the day-to-day, like, game perspective about in-game Prime, Um, I'd be willing to bet he's pretty good psychologically with his players in game, but the problem is he just has not put a product together that can compete. And there's only so much believing in yourself that you can do when your offensive line cannot block. Simple as that. I mean, like, there, and by the way, I believe Colorado's defense actually is better this year than they were last year. Call me crazy, because everybody's talking about how Colorado's, not gotten better. Colorado's not gotten better. Well, I watched the game, and I watched last year's game, and we gave that game to them. We all know it. This game vindicated it, confirmed it. We gave that game to them last year. Absolutely. Okay, so I was on Prime has his team doubting, and you can see it. Yeah, they're doubting for good reason, because he just has not built up his team the right way, and we've been calling him out for this since the moment he stepped on campus at Colorado. He has chosen to roll the dice every year. I mean, it's simple as that. And sometimes you I don't know what game we're playing with dice. Sometimes you get a good roll, sometimes you get a bad roll. Simple as that. And he had to get a good roll. He's taking over at a job where his son's going to be gone after this year. Travis Hunter's going to be gone after this year, and he's got to prove he's a winner, or else they're not going to have much patience with him. Even Colorado, a bottom 3 Power 4 program of all time, by the way. Let that sink in statistically. That's something I figured out this week in the lead up. Wins wise, winning seasons wise, conference titles wise, they are a bottom 3 program in college football history. In the Power 4, the current Power 4. Now that leaves out a couple of teams that maybe might help. But anyway, so yeah, they're not a great program, but even they need to see that Coach Prime is gonna actually be a good coach for them. And honestly, with the way things are going and the way Prime has just kind of like used the media his whole time, it's almost like the media is the predictor. I don't know what to say, predictor. I mean, they definitely latch on to everything he says, but I think he's going to be gone after this year's one way or another, or another. It'll probably be him leaving. I don't know for what or for where, but it's probably going to be him leaving. I don't see him at Colorado at the end of this year, and let that sink in. I mean, Oregon's coach Dan Lanning had maybe the best pregame speech of the year last year. I'm partial to "If you die, you die" with Coach Rule, but Dan Lanning definitely is a close second with rooted in substance. They're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins. And there you go. And Oregon in that game were the first team to really expose Colorado in the sense of like, yeah, they're not even close to a good team. They got some fun players, but they're not even close to a complete team. That's what Oregon did. Well, last night we put the nail in the coffin. We absolutely, if Oregon started the downfall of Prime, we made sure that there's no climbing your way back out of this. And so, yeah, it was very impactful on their program. And I think it's impactful on our program too. Look, this is going to give the players a lot of confidence, and it's going to have the fans believing, which is the first thing. I mean, man, we're believing. I mean, look, when we were up 28-10 with 4 minutes left and Shador was still in the game, Husker PTSD from the last 7 years had me still believing, like, oh, this game we could lose at any moment. We could throw a pick 6 and then they could get an onside kick and then so it's a real thing, and I experience it too, and I'm an optimist about Husker football. So, and I experience the hell out of that. So yeah, this is gonna be big for Husker football for sure. So Travis Hunter, let's move on to Travis Hunter. He has comments on him. Travis Hunter is talented, but remember, these are Blake's words. Travis Hunter is talented, but he is a crybaby when things don't go his way, especially when he actually gets defended by a real player. Well, that's certainly true. And let me say this. If you look at Travis Hunter's, I was originally going to push back on this because Travis Hunter had 10 catches for 110 yards, which when you first look at that stat line, you're like, oh yeah, like he had a pretty good game. Like they didn't play great, but 10 catches for 110 yards, average, I believe 8.9 yards a catch on my memory, maybe 9.1, somewhere around there. That's pretty good. Sounds like a good game. But I mean, all of his catches were it was really like stuff that didn't impact the game much. I mean, we were really dominating them, man, on all sides of the ball. And yeah, I think one of the keys to most people's keys to the game going into this was limit the from Nebraska's perspective was limit the big plays. Limit the big plays. And I believe their biggest play of the game was 30 yards, which for Colorado's offense, I mean, we all saw the North Dakota State game last week. Colorado's offense is explosive. They are. If Shador can get the ball off and the offensive line can do enough where the defense is having to apply pressure with blitz, then yeah, they can be an explosive offense. Shador will find the open guy. I saw him in person last night, and let me tell you, he is an impressive athlete, and it looks effortless for this dude to get the ball off. I mean, it's just a pretty ball every time. So he's an impressive quarterback. I was telling people like, oh, his draft stock went down with the pick six. And yeah, honestly, I kind of do believe a little bit his draft stock went down. Even if it's not fully his draft stock went down, this is going to be a thing that comes up in meetings with NFL teams, this exact play, because that pick six. So, the game starts out, we 3-and-out them with a sack, a TFL, and a drop ball on their end. And then we go down the field and score with an awesome drive. And then we stop them. And then we get the ball back and we punt and we pin them at the 2-yard line. And by this point, Shador has, I believe, been sacked 3 times. And so he's at the 2-yard line, been sacked 3 times. The ball's in the middle of the field. And I don't know if Pat Shurmur called it. I don't know if Shador checked to this, but they call a pass concept on first down, a hitch on the wide receiver on the right side. And it's slow developing. He's way late on the throw, and Tommy jumps it beautifully, almost ironically mirroring Travis Hunter's interception against TCU a couple years ago. Not quite as acrobatic of a play, I will say, even as a Husker fan, but great play by Tommy. And so, yeah, from that moment on, really the game was over. And Colorado was mine. Colorado fans mine. I mean, I started getting texts from Greg at that point, basically conceding. And I was like, damn, dude, like this game's not even over, like from my perspective, we could just give away the game. But anyway, yeah. So his stat line's deceptive. I think Tommy played awesome. And I think Tommy's a first rounder. I'll just say it. A lot of people have said that. I don't know if I've 100% believed it. I've always believed maybe he has the athleticism to be a first rounder, but Tommy's starting to look like a first rounder, man. It's awesome to see. So here's more of Blake's comments. The negatives are that the offense started to sputter with the big lead for the second week. Instead of crushing them, we gave them a little hope. Sure, some drives were stalled by penalties, but a good team can overcome that. I knew they weren't trying to give them away, but damn, score in the second half. Especially at the end of the game when they made up shit about you last year to push their shit, to push their shit stain brand. Sorry, I butchered that. Especially at the end of the game when they made up shit last year about you to push their shit stained brand. Of course I messed that up. That's like a tongue twister. You say shit like 3 times in that sentence. Anyway, guess that shows I almost said Mike Riley because he says MR capitalized. Guess that shows Matt Rule has more character, and he basically said as much. Yeah, it was awesome. His post-game comments were great. Matt Rule in the post-game essentially said, he was quote, make no mistake, we expected this. Which when I saw that in the press conference, when I saw Coach Rule say that, I had to stop and rewind and watch it a couple times because I got chills when he said it. It was like the Coach Frost comment, we're going to make the Big Ten adjust to us. It was like a comment in a similar vein to that, but instead of saying it before you've done anything, Rule says it after they've already done anything. And it wasn't in like a prideful way that he said it too. He's just like, look, make no mistake, this is what we expected. I got to be honest, and we controlled this game. I mean, there was never a time where the game was in doubt, where we weren't in control of the game, and he's absolutely right on that. So yeah, Dylan. So his comments on Dylan, Blake's comments on Dylan. Dylan also played pretty good, but not great, and should have had a pick that Ramir stole for a TD. Yeah, let's Ramir. Just wow, you mentioned Ramir. I mean, I thought Ramir played great. He had I mean, and it was a penalty, but we just all had a sour taste in our mouth that second half. There were penalties on every play. But Ramir had like a 50-yard touchdown. That was such a good run. And I don't even know if the run, how good it was, came through on the TV, because I had end zone seats, and the type of run it was, man, I kind of like end zone seats in the sense of, especially when you're watching run game, because you can see the holes just open and close and open and close, and you can see if the running backs are taking good cuts. And I was impressed with our running backs. I was and Ramir, that play where he stole the ball out of the defender's hands, essentially. I mean, the defender didn't look like the most coordinated guy in the world. Let's say that right now. No disrespect to him, but he didn't look like he could be a receiver if he wanted to be. Let's just say that. But Ramir is an athlete. He's a veteran. He has been on stages like this. This is the guy who scored. I mean, he had such a pivotal role in that Michigan game. I don't have the play-by-play in front of me, so I couldn't tell you. He scored like a wheel route that either was the go-ahead touchdown or brought us close. I don't remember. Before the third quarter. Yeah, it was the go-ahead touchdown. It was a wheel route, go-ahead touchdown to Ramir in 2021 to put us ahead of Michigan going into the fourth quarter. So Ramir's been on this stage, is what I'm saying. And players like Ramir, there's two thought processes. You could say, I trust them because they're a veteran and they've been here before, and I love having them on the team. And that's where I am. Or you could have well, we've had this malaise of losing over our head this whole time, and you don't want to bring that culture into this culture, and yada yada yada. Well, I think one of the things that Coach Rule has done so well is he came in and he did, like we've always said, the opposite of Dion. He came in and he said, I agreed to be the coach here. I'm the coach here now, which means you are my guys. You know what I mean? All of you are my guys. I agreed to be here, so I'm here for you. And in doing that, he gained their trust. And then he put them through hell in the offseason, which is, what you do as a coach. And in doing that, he really weeded out which of those people were the people I was talking about that you can trust from the old culture, and which of those people that probably need to move on. And there were people that moved on. We had a starting safety, Miles Farmer. Wish him all the best luck in the world, but I wasn't expecting Miles Farmer to transfer. I thought Miles Farmer was a pretty good player. But then Miles Farmer transfers, and I believe it was Deshaun Singleton or somebody new stepped in place of where he would have been playing, and they're just way better. They're just way better, and who knows what Tanner Farmer, or not Tanner Farmer, who knows what Miles Farmer's work ethic was like. I don't want to go in on him, but this is all just to say Rule did a really good job of respectfully weeding out who needs to leave and keeping and convincing to stay those who need to stay. Ty could have moved on. Nash could have moved on. These guys are pivotal on our team. I mean, it is so nice to have a defense where you only had to rush 7% of the time. That's the statistic, by the way. The UTEP game, we rushed 0% of the time. The Colorado game, it's 7%. Now, we do run a 3-3. This is my question about these stats that they keep citing, actually. We do run a 3-3-5. It is not as well known of a defensive system. Like we have that jack position. That's sort of just like a rover. And if they line up over here and then move over there, I mean, if it's 4, I guess, does that not count as a blitz? Even though for us, I guess technically it would be, because we're a 3-3-5. So our base defense is 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 DBs. So if you send 4 in our defense, it's a blitz. But if we're only sending 4 and all 4 of them have their hands down on a specific package, are they not counting that as a blitz? Even though one of them, I don't know. It's just a question I have, honestly. But anyway, yeah. So Dylan, that's what we were talking about. Dylan also played pretty good, but not great, and should have had a pick that Ramir stole for TD. Awesome by Ramir. And then, like I said, the running backs played great. Dowdell, bro. He hits the hole. And, it was crazy. Like our first drive, their first drive, we, three and out. We already talked about that. But then we get the ball and we drive right down the field pretty much. We had to convert a 3rd and 10 that Dylan scrambled for. That was awesome. But then Dowdell started getting fed the rock and he burst into the second level. And we didn't even realize this live. My dad and I were sitting right next to each other and we were thinking Shiloh Sanders was in the game later on. Like we had no idea he was out of the game, but Dowdell gets into the second level and runs over Shiloh Sanders and breaks his forearm. It's just like this type of stuff. It's just like, dang, I don't know if we could have dominated them any more than we did. It's nuts. Okay, Blake's final thought, and then I'll give my final thought, and we'll sort of wrap up this fun solo edition of Cornhusker Corner. Final thought: Colorado played in the hardest environment they have ever played in and completely folded. Spot on. Meanwhile, Nebraska has completely folded whenever they have had a chance for growth and momentum, but they didn't back down this time. Full belief we can be undefeated going into Ohio State. So that's big. If you've watched this podcast for a while, you know that's big. Blake he has been a nihilist, pessimist. I don't know what else to call him when it comes to Nebraska football. He lost out on hope. I believe he told me he lost out on hope. Maybe it was 2021, the 3-9 season when we just lost so many close games, and then 2022 coming into the Ireland game. Yeah, that's what he said. It broke him. That's what he said. And ever since then on our show, it's been Blake cautiously optimistic about Rule because it's hard not to be, but still not really 100% bought in yet. And so him saying that, full belief we can be undefeated going into Ohio State. I don't want to speak for Blake, but he wouldn't have said that going into the year. Let's just say that this Colorado win did something to maybe bring him over to my side a little bit more. Maybe we have a little bit more of a positive overall show these days. So yeah, my final thought, let's see if I can get this together because there's just so many. It was an incredible environment. Oh, I'll remember it forever. Memorial Stadium. The balloon release was sick. It was just so cool. It was just awesome. It was an awesome day, man. And we finally delivered, and it's just feels awesome. Go Big Red.